Newcrest City didn't sleep, it doom-scrolled. By day, it was a chorus of elevator dings, latte foam, and people who used circling back like a weapon. By night, it glittered in too many colors, a restless arcade that refused to shut down. For Aria Morgan, the city was less choose your fighter and more choose your bill to pay first. She was 25, stubborn and soft around the edges in a way she tried to disguise with sarcasm. Every weekday, she tied on a black apron at the Starlight Grill, a mid-tier spot with gold trim and Michelin aspirations it did not, in fact, possess. If desperation had a scent, the grill had bottled it: burnt espresso, lemon polish, and onions that clung to her hair like a bad decision. She wasn't a bitter. Her mother had warned that bitterness was poison you brewed for yourself, but she was tired in the way that makes you forget your own dreams. Her sketchbooks lived under the bed next to a shoebox of overdue notices. Her portfolio was almost done, in the same way the moon is almost a street lamp. At 11:58 a.m., Liam slid a sweating glass across the service counter with the solemnity of a priest handing over last rites. "Table 9, he said. "Boss fight unlocked." Aria didn't need to ask who. Damian Blackwell, the billionaire, the dragon of Table 9. He came Tuesdays and Thursdays the way the tide comes in, not because he liked the food, he made it clear he didn't, but because the starlight sat between his meetings and his need to be displeased in public. She tied her apron tighter like armor. "Fine, let's roll initiative." Damien sat ramrod straight, all precise edges and expensive restraint. Silver threaded his dark hair like lightning trapped on purpose. He stared out the window as if the skyline had personally disappointed him. "Good afternoon, sir," Aria said, professional smile mode engaged. "Can I start you with a drink?" Without looking at her, sparkling water, Italian, one spherical ice cube, lime wedge, fresh cut, not lemon. "I can taste the difference." She wanted to ask if he also needed it blessed by 3 saints and a barista. Instead, "Of course, sir." She cut the lime herself, placed the glass with the steady hands of a bomb technician. Damien finally turned, glanced at it, took one measured sip. "Passable," he said, then, "The menu." "I know where it is. Present it to me." She handed it over. He skimmed 10 seconds, snapped it shut. "Steak, medium rare, warm red center. Fries crispy, not limp. Seasonal vegetables, no carrots. I detest carrots." "Yes, sir." She typed the order into the POS like a court stenographer for a crime she hadn't seen. When the plate came up, perfect steak, gleaming vegetables, fries singing with heat, she dared to hope. He carved into the center, studied it like a jewel appraiser. Chewed. Swallowed. "It's acceptable." Then he pinched a green bean between 2 fingers, lifted it like evidence. "This is overcooked." "Its structural integrity has been compromised." Aria blinked. "Vegetables now required an engineering degree." "I can get you a fresh." "Don't be ridiculous. The moment has passed." "See that it doesn't happen again." At the end, he signed the slip with a flourish. On the tip line, 0. Beneath it, in a razor-straight hand, "Try a little harder." Walking home under neon, Aria whispered to the night, "One day, Damian Blackwell, you won't be able to touch me. One day, I'm someone you can't dismiss." She had no idea how tangled he already was in the blueprint of her life. Her apartment was a 3rd-floor walk-up with peeling paint and a hallway that smelled like fried rice. Bleach and romance gone wrong. Silence pressed at her when she shut the door. Since her mother's death 6 months earlier, silence had teeth. On the top shelf of the closet sat a taped, dust-filmed shoebox her mother had jokingly named the Box of Ghosts. Aria dragged a chair over, climbed up, brought it down. The old tape peeled like brittle scabs. The smell of dried flowers and paper floated out. Under a stack of Italian records lay a velvet-covered journal. Her mother's diary. Aria opened to careful loops of handwriting. The first entries glowed with youth, a 20-something immigrant fighting bookstores, sunlight, and her voice. Then came photographs tied with ribbon. Sophia on a beach, laughing. In front of an art supply store, on a fire, escape with paint under her nails. In many photos, she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, dark hair, intense eyes, not traditionally handsome, but undeniable. In some shots, he looked at the camera. In others, he looked at Sophia with ruinous tenderness. At the bottom of the box, wrapped in silk, Aria found a silver locket. Engraved on its face, S&D, she pried it open with a thumbnail. 2 tiny portraits blinked back, her mother, incandescent, and a man. Her heart stuttered, the jawline, the gaze. That controlled, almost amused mouth. No way. She scrambled for her phone, typing with shaky hands. Damian Blackwell young. An old newspaper photo loaded. Damian, 20-something, accepting an entrepreneurship award, older than the photos with her mother. But the same man. The phone slid from her fingers. The room moved. She flipped through the diary, hunting. October 12th. D gave me a locket. S and D Sophia and Damian, always. He says he'll build something big and wants me beside him. I believe him. I shouldn't, but I do. All the air left her body. D wasn't a random initial. D had a face and $1 billion last name. The math did the rest cold, basic, merciless. He'd left that summer. She was born the following winter. A monstrous thought arrived and refused to leave. Damian Blackwell might be her father. Bills don't pause for revelations. Rent doesn't care about genealogy. Aria tied on her apron and went back. Damian arrived like weather. The hostess, new and unlucky, sent him to Aria's section. Fate put a hand on her back and shoved. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, voice very steady for someone whose brain was on fire. He looked up. Their eyes met properly for the first time. Something flickered, something almost like recognition, then was gone. "The usual," he said. When she set his plate down, her thumb brushed the edge. He recoiled. "Please be careful. I don't want your fingerprints on my food." Her fingerprints. His daughter's fingerprints. The sentence landed like a slap. Something inside her went quiet, not broken beyond broken. "My apologies, sir," she said, professionally empty. She served the rest of his meal like a ghost. No warmth, no pleasing. Only efficiency. On the receipt this time, improvement. Silence is golden. She folded the slip, slid it into her apron. Not evidence he'd ever accept, evidence she'd never forget. Tuesday. The grill was gray with rain and half empty. A new hire named Tom Trembling Hands. 2 clean shoes got the section beside Aria's. The hostess sat Damian there because fate has a sense of humor. Tom carried butternut squash soup with the focus of a bomb squad. A single orange tear sloshed onto the saucer. Damian's voice didn't rise. It never needed to. "Is this your first time in a service environment, or are you incompetent by nature?" Tom flushed. "Aye, sir, I can bring another. The experience is ruined." He pushed the bowl away as if it had insulted his ancestors. "I don't want him serving me again." Manager Henderson hustled over with apologies. Tom's eyes shone. It took 5 minutes to erase a paycheck. The simmer and Aria snapped to boil. She untied her apron, dropped it, and walked to table 9. The room fell into hush. Forks suspended. Liam froze mid-pour. Henderson went pale. Damian looked up. An irritated king interrupted. "Is there a problem?" "Yes," she said. "You." His mouth twitched almost a smile. "I beg your pardon? You come here to perform cruelty, to scrape people raw because it proves you're in control." Her voice shook, then steadied. "You just destroyed a kid to feel tall. Does it make you feel big? Or just less small?" Henderson hissed, "Aria." She kept going. "My mother taught me a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account. It's measured by their kindness. By that measure, you're the poorest man I've ever met." At Mother, something cracked behind Damian's eyes. A confusion that didn't fit his script. "You're fired," he said to Henderson, but staring at her. "You can't fire me." She lifted her chin. "I quit." Phones were already recording. A table in the corner whispered, "This is going straight to TikTok." By midnight, #Dragon of Table 9 would be trending, and a million strangers would pick sides based on a 15-second clip. Outside, the rain hit her like applause. She was unemployed, broke, terrified, and lighter than she'd felt in months. Damian's penthouse had the echo of success and the loneliness of a museum after hours. He poured scotch, didn't drink it, stared at the city he owned like it had become unrecognizable. "Find out who she is," he told Evelyn Hayes, his assistant, the only person who'd lasted a decade in his weather system. "A waitress?" She asked, eyebrows barely moving. "Yes," hours later she returned. "Aria Morgan. 25. No known father on record. Mother, Sophia Morgan, deceased cancer, the spring." He sat down so suddenly his chair complained. The name moved through him like lightning. Sophia. He had loved her. He had left her. He had told himself it was necessary. He had never once investigated what necessary cost someone else. 25, he did the math, then stopped. The numbers hurt. He pressed his palms to his eyes and saw the past. Sophia laughing on a fire escape, sunlight making an angelic mess out of her hair. "I'll build something big," he told her, "and I want you there." He built it. She wasn't there. And Aria was the age she would be if he stood. Her address, he told Evelyn. "Mr. Blackwell?" Her address, he repeated, something human and terrible breaking the surface of his voice. Aria sat on the floor with Liam among half-packed boxes and an open grief. She told him about the diary, the photos, the locket. He said very little, which she loved him for. He didn't try to fix pain you can only walk through. A knock shook the door, sharp and unavoidable. Liam stood, jaw set. "Say the word." Aria looked through the peephole. The hallway sighed. "It's him," she whispered. "Damian." She opened the door before courage could change its mind. He looked different in the dingy light, less glossy, more human. His eyes searched her face like he de-lost something there once and was hoping it had been returned. "You have her eyes," he said softly. "And her spine," Aria answered. "The one that held when you didn't." He flinched. "I didn't know," he said. No boardroom certainty, only a gravelly, breakable truth. "Sophia never told me." "If I had known, would it have mattered?" Aria asked. "Honestly, would you have chosen us over your empire?" "Yes," he said, and the word sounded like a wound. He saw the locket at her throat and went very still. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a tarnished match, his half, the other circle of a promise he'd broken. Aria's breath left on a soundless laugh that wasn't joy. Proof was a circle you could hold in your palm and still not understand. "Go," she said finally, voice paper thin but steady. "I can't do this tonight." He nodded as if she'd given an order he knew he deserved. At the threshold, he turned. "Your mother was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I left. I am sorry in a way that makes speaking difficult." When he was gone, Aria let herself cry like the world had finally given permission. Liam held her hand, then, after a time, simply sat. The truest friendships are good at silence. A week later, an envelope appeared under her door. No return address. Inside, a letter in precise black ink. The word "sorry" is too small. "I can't return what I took. I found a review from a gallery 26 years ago. It mentions your mother by name. She was a painter, a brilliant one. I should have been there when the world told her that. D." A yellowed clipping was tucked behind. Sophia Morgan praised as a rising, fearless colorist. Aria read it until the words blurred. The gallery existed 3 blocks from the starlight. The past liked to choose cruel distances. 2 weeks later, a package. Inside, a professional graphics tablet, and a sticky note. Absurdly simple. Talent shouldn't be constrained by tools. This isn't charity. It's belief. She wanted to reject it on principle. Then she thought of her mother standing in the doorway of a long-ago art store, eyes bright with a future that had not come true. Aria set up the tablet. She started drawing that night and didn't stop until Dawn painted the windows. They met in the botanical garden where Sophia used to take Aria on Saturdays, the two of them sharing a muffin and naming flowers like constellations. It smelled like damp earth and new beginnings that don't know they're beginnings yet. Damian didn't wear a suit. He looked smaller without armor. Older, human. They didn't perform apologies. They traded stories. His of a ruthless young man who mistook speed for strength. Hers of a woman who painted sunlight into small apartments and called it home. Do you remember? Aria asked, finger tracing the air. A locket? S&D. He touched his pocket where the circle lived. Every day. Why did you leave? He stared at a fountain that had once made her mother laugh. Because I wanted the world. Because I was afraid if I chose a person, I'd lose it. It turns out losing a person was losing the world. I learned too late. They walked until the garden closed. When they parted, she didn't hug him. He didn't ask. But the space between them was less impossible. Aria attacked her portfolio like it had offended her. She slept in chunks, ate when Liam shoved a sandwich into her hand, and when imposter syndrome hissed, she turned up her playlist and drew louder. She landed a junior designer role at Pixel and Pine, a boutique studio with thrift store chairs and a creative director named Naya, who wore oversized blazers and sincerity. On day one, Naya pointed to a wall of brand concepts. Pick one that makes your pulse spike, then sell me on it like my rent depends on it. Aria picked a messy, neon-bright concept and sold it with shaking hands and a steady voice. Naya grinned. Welcome to the circus. Liam celebrated with tacos and a terrible karaoke performance of Don't Stop Believing, which unfortunately did. Damian created the Sophia Morgan Fund without a press release. Grants, materials, and small stipends for young women trying to make art while life demanded rent. He didn't cut ribbons. He wrote checks and sat in the back row at shows, hands folded. Evelyn managed logistics while watching him like a doctor with a patient who decided at last to heal. He still snaps sometimes. Decades of habit don't vaporize. But when he did, he apologized to assistants, to baristas, to cab drivers. A man learning to say my bad at 52 is not pretty, but it is something. The hashtag dragon of table mind clip made the rounds. A million strangers had hot takes. Some said Aria was a hero, some called her unprofessional. One commentator wrote a thread titled, Billionaire Palette Fatigue. Why wealth makes your green beans sad. Aria kept her accounts private and her head down. Pixel and Pine got a bump in inquiries. Naya set boundaries like a pro bodyguard. Press asks you about it. You say you're not discussing personal matters at work. Then send them to me. I'll eat them. Damon's PR team begged him for a polished interview. He declined. If I'm not doing it for the cameras, I'm not doing it for the cameras. Personal growth? Evelyn asked mildly. Experiment, he said. Preliminary results inconclusive. A Blackwell Global board member named Marston suggested smoothly, expensively, that perhaps the foundation was an unnecessary risk in a climate of heightened public scrutiny. Translation, Damian said, you don't like me spending money that won to get your name in a magazine? Marston smiled in a way money does. We're fiduciaries, Damian. We are, Damian said, and felt the ground of a younger, uglier self under his shoes. He stepped off it. Which is why we'll continue. If the optics make you nervous, there are other boards. The vote went his way. The air in the room changed temperature. Later, he called Aria. I told a room full of suits that art matters. She didn't say I'm proud of you. She said, okay, but at what cost? He left quiet, disbelieving. A phrase you inherited from your mother, along with the eyes. Naya landed a pro bono project, a small gallery retrospective of Sophia Morgan's work, drawn from paintings Aria had rescued from storage in canvas sleeves. The show title, Light Kept, was Aria's. Damian offered money. Aria said no. He asked what she needed. She said, show up. Quietly. Opening night smelled like varnish and wine. People moved slowly the way they do when they sense they're near something holy. Aria stood in front of a canvas her mother had painted the summer before she was born. A window flung open, city light poured in as if it had been waiting. Damian came to stand beside her, hands clasped. Do you see, he said, voice rough, how she made ordinary light look like a secret? I lived inside that secret, Aria said. I didn't know until I didn't have it anymore. He took out his half locket and placed it in her palm. I kept this because I'm sentimental when no one is looking. You keep yours because you're brave when everyone is. She closed her fingers around the cool circle. I'm keeping both, she said, and didn't give it back. Pixel and Pine was invited to pitch a rebrand for Blackwell Global's consumer side and RFP so big the studio buzzed like a beehive with Wi-Fi. Naya called Aria into her office. Conflict check, Naya said. We can pull you if this is messy. Aria stared at the brief. It is messy, she said. I still want in. The pitch room was glass and expensive air. Damian sat at the far end and did not make eye contact with her once. Evelyn did, and her nod said, You've got this. Aria presented a brand story that acknowledged Blackwell's flint and promised friction turned into light. She talked about responsibility and about ordinary people who don't have a golden parachute. She did not soften edges. She did not sell forgiveness. She sold work after Damian said nothing. The board murmured polite thanks. Aria went to the sidewalk, found Liam, and let him shove a pretzel into her hand because carbohydrates are emergency blankets. Pixel and Pine won the bid. Naya grinned so hard it probably cracked a tooth. They chose the one where you told them to stop lighting cigars with dollar bills. Metaphorically, Aria said. Sure, Naya said, metaphorically. Damian texted a single line. One on merit, proud of your work. D, she stared at it for a long time, then typed back. Boundaries remain. Understood. D. They met for coffee in a quiet place where nobody cared who anyone was. Aria set rules like road cones. You're not dad yet, she said. You might never be. You're Damian until that changes. We don't rewrite the past. We don't perform this for strangers. We go slow. Agreed, he said, and I will mess up. You will, she said. You'll apologize. With your mouth, not your checkbook. Deal, he said, and a laugh escaped him like he didn't have permission and did it anyway. They went to a museum some Sundays. He stood too close to paintings. She tugged him back with 2 fingers. He told her stories about being 19 and terrified and pretending not to be. She told him stories about being 9 and brave and pretending she wasn't scared. Once, in front of Orozco, he said quietly, I would have been a bad father then. I am trying to be a decent one now. She nodded without looking at him. Keep trying. Damian asked the Starlight management for 10 minutes before opening on a rain-bruised morning. Henderson looked wary. Liam stood with arms folded. Chef Marta, whose basil could raise the dead, sharpened a knife for effect. Damian didn't bring cameras. He brought an umbrella and a speech he refused to read. I was cruel here, he said, voice steady and unadorned. I treated people like props. That was wrong. I can pay for upgrades and staff meals, and I will. But I needed to say this out loud where I was loud with my meanness. Marta eyed him. You want absolution or toast points? Neither, he said. Just accountability. Liam leaned toward Aria across the entranceway later. He's doing a therapy speedrun. Let him, Aria said. It's a long game. The hashtag Dragon of Table 9 discourse moved on, as discourse does. People forgot. The people involved didn't. Aria learned the exact point at which grief shifts from drowning to a weight you can carry. She learned her mother's recipes, not to replicate them perfectly, but to make the apartment smell like laughing again. She called Liam on bad days and good ones. She shipped work on time. She stretched in the mornings. Sometimes she cried in the shower and sometimes she didn't. Damian learned to leave spaces in conversations. He learned that sorry was not a magic spell. It was a practice. He learned to say thank you to baristas and mean it. He learned to stop before the first cutting sentence left his mouth and ask who it would help. Evelyn learned that if a man can remake a company at 52, he can also remake a single habit if someone is brave enough to stare at him until he does. 1 year later, the Sophia Morgan Fund mounted a small scholarship show. The invitation design was Aria's quiet typography, a slant of yellow she swore you could feel on your skin. She curated a wall for her mother, 3 canvases that looked like open windows, all of them painted indoors. The room filled with students who looked like possibility and exhaustion and joy in borrowed shoes. Aria gave a talk with her notes tucked in her palm, just in case. She didn't need them. My mother taught me that ordinary light can be holy if you choose to keep it, she said. I lost her, and then I found her in color again. If you're here, you're keeping light too. That is not small. After Liam cried openly and blamed allergies, Naya hugged Aria so hard her ribs voted no. Marta sent a bouquet of basil like a benediction. Damian stood in the back, hands folded, the way he did now when rooms were about anyone but him. When people passed, he stepped aside. He didn't speak until the crowd thinned. Then, you were extraordinary. I was adequate plus, Aria said, but her mouth couldn't hold the smile down. I brought something, he said, almost shy. He produced a small framed copy of the old gallery review, the one that had called Sophia rising right before life asked her to sit down. The frame was simple maple. The matting, careful. For your studio, he said, or your kitchen. Wherever light needs keeping. She took it. The paper was a bridge she could touch. Thank you. He nodded, that awkward new habit of keeping ceremony small. Coffee Sunday. Yeah, she said. Text me the time, and don't be late. I'm billing you interest. On time, he said, on purpose. He turned to go, then paused. Aria? She looked up. Not Dad yet, he said, a small grin acknowledging the rule book. But may I say I'm honored to try for the role? Her throat went warm and tight. Applications are open, she said. References required? I have one, he said, glancing at the painting of the open window. She's not available for calls, but her work recommends me. They stood there, 2 people connected by love and damage, by a woman who painted light into small rooms and called it enough. Outside, New Crest City pulsed like a chaotic harp. Inside, it was very quiet. Let's go, Aria said at last, tucking the frame under her arm. The world's not going to walk itself. They stepped out together. The door swung shut. Somewhere behind them, paint dried, color set, and ordinary light kept doing what it always does when someone cares enough to keep it. There was no grand finale, no fireworks above a skyline, no montage scored by strings. They were just days messy, imperfect, honest. Apologies made and remade, boundaries named and honored, work done well. Laughter that arrived late and stayed anyway. Aria did not forgive because a year had passed. She forgave because the person in front of her kept becoming someone she could forgive. Damian did not become good because he wrote checks. He became better because he started living like people weren't on a cost center. When Aria finally hung both halves of the locket together in her studio, hers and his, a circle made whole. She didn't do it for symbolism. She did it because the silver caught morning sun and threw it around the room like confetti. Because light, once kept, wants to multiply. Because sometimes the dragon learns to stop burning things. Because sometimes, if you try truly, try the world lets you start again.